Now, next up, we're going to move outside of our atmosphere. So please welcome the director from the science director from LIST, the Luxembourg Institute of Science and Technology, Lucien Hoffmann. Space for Sustainable Finance Services. Lucien.
Thank you. Good afternoon to everybody. So I'm not a finance specialist, but I hope to introduce you to a technology that may help to solve one of your problems, that is data. And we heard already this afternoon several times that data is an important problem, and I will show you, introduce to space technologies and how it could help to solve your problem. General context, of course, climate change and the consequences are causing a strong pressure on the environment and also on industry. So we have the very disasters that are coming more and more important with a strong economic impact. And industries has started to adopt sustainable growth policies and foster a green recovery. Sustainable finance, through the integration of environmental, social, and governance factors in investment and decision-making processes, has made, of course, a lot of progress in the last years. But however, there's still a lot of problems because of a lack of data, so that you can really make right decisions out of the data that you have and avoid greenwashing. And so we have a problem of data. Out of this, you have to, of course, extract knowledge to take the necessary actions. So there's a clear need for data by the finance sector. So historically, the main source of ESG data have been voluntary disclosures by companies themselves through corporate social responsibility reports. But these reports have a lot of shortcomings and proved ineffective. There's first no assurance guarantees. So unlike financial statements that are audited by accounting firms, ensuring the accuracy of ESG reports is still a work in progress. According to a recent study, only about 50%, so half of the companies that were looked at had assurance in their environmental metrics. Another problem is assessment is often a blend of art and science. So it's often more an art where context and investor judgment is also important when reading the CSR report, as no two firms are alike. And so reports can be filled with often, let's say, feel-good stories that distract from the key issues, which is why investors should zero in on material factors. Even when you know what to look for, finding that information is sometimes challenging, and it may be buried somewhere in the disclosures. So there's, in general, I would say, a lack of transparency that hinders the market efficiency, and also, of course, which is very important, the trustworthiness. There's a lack of reporting infrastructure, so there are for having a reliable and accurately measuring impact. And so this creates gaps, and of course there's a risk for greenwashing, as there may be misleading information in the reports. And this can be seen clearly in current approaches to ESG monitoring and verification. There are now a number of rating agencies that have emerged, and often mainly relying only on self-reported data from companies themselves. So it's difficult to verify them and to judge if they are complete or accurate and so on. This was also addressed in a recent report by the World Bank and WF, which identified a range of potential issues related to this to data, including the accuracy of the data, the coverage of the data, the comparability of the data, the timeliness, the granularity of the data, and also indicated that in many of the reports, large parts of this data are missing, or for some years they are completely missing. And so what I want to show you is that space technologies may be a help to solve that problem. Space technologies, we have, let's say, three types of space technologies. We have the navigation, so to help positioning people, objects, and so on. We have telecommunication, which transmits information, and we have Earth observation, so to have remote sensing tools to observe the Earth as a very high spatial resolution. Global navigation, it can help to have certified georeferencing and timestamping of transactions, of metadata, also to have geo and time-tagged photographs used for insurance claims, for example, of damaged buildings or cars, or timestamping of land titles, and so on. Satellite communications, of course, is a means to communicate rapidly, also in remote locations, data, either through terrestrial networks or through satellite networks. And there, more and more also IoT, 5G networks become more and more important to deliver large amounts of data, especially also again in real time, but also from remote areas. And thirdly, Earth observation, so remote sensing, it provides a number of geospatial data of different environmental variables, weather, mapping information for different applications. So it can help really to give trust to the stakeholder, because this is independent information that can be used to verify and monitor different conditions, and of course already used in the insurance sector for the moment. And I think we are now in a very interesting time. Here you see the evolution of the number of satellites that are orbited since 1970. You see really an exponential growth of satellites that are available. So when 10 years ago you could make maybe a feasibility study on one location to test that a product could be of use, now you have many more data available, and you can really provide a service worldwide using these new space capabilities and all these new constellations. So more satellites. And on the other hand, what is of course very important is also the spatial resolution and the temporal resolution. So this slide shows you on the y-axis the spatial resolution. So we have now satellite data that can give you data at 30 centimeters, so very high spatial resolution. And on the x-axis you have the return period. So you see that now we are at a stage where we can have an image of every square meter of the Earth, or almost every square meter on the Earth, once per day. So you can really monitor at almost real time assets all over the globe with the same methodology and so on. And what is also important, that is the line below, is that you see the price per square meter in dollars. And you see that especially the satellites, which are European satellites on the left side, low left side, the data are for free. So that's also, of course, very advantageous. So, and then in addition, with the new technologies, artificial intelligence, so there are wealth of data that are now produced, and we need also the necessary tools to process all of this data. And there, with the progress that has been done in artificial intelligence and also with high-performance computing, we have also the IT infrastructure and the data analytical infrastructures to handle all of this data, to extract the information that is relevant for you. And so, in conclusion, for that part is that we have an exponential growth of satellites with space-based sensing. We have an increased computing power. We have increased, let's say, algorithms through machine learning, other artificial intelligence technologies to handle this data. And so these systems will be increasingly available for also the financial sector to make analysis. And this geospatial data from space have a number of advantages when we look at the shortcomings that we saw in the first slides. They have a high frequency. We can have now data every day almost. They are low cost, so you can cover large areas at low cost. They are independent, so it's not someone that discloses some information. You can gather this information in an independent way. And they are globally consistent. It's the same sensor, it's the same technology that is used worldwide. So a lot of advantages that go along with this data. And so if we look at the different services, let's say in the finance sector, so we have the banking service where space data can be instrumental, for example, to provide insights and forecasts related to loan provisions to individuals and businesses in real estate, agriculture, energy sector. By integrating artificial intelligence also can be used to have take decisions to monitor the assets of customers, can provide access to banking to individuals in remote areas and developing countries, and also enables currency transfers, record transactions, and so on through the communication part of the space technologies. Insurance services, you can have information on damages when there are floods or fires, for assessing risks of insuring a customer or loan risks, reinsuring tasks. And so it can really be automated for claim settlements through blockchain technologies, also automated risk modeling to assess or reinsure the insurance policies, or also for the verification of insurance claims and risk profile mitigation. And finally, in the investment services, examples are to help investors to take decisions on specific assets by automated platform, to help look for investment opportunities worldwide, also to advise investors to locate farmers in remote areas, and so on. So for the three, let's say, pillars of the finance sector, space technologies can be of very high value. Just to show some use cases, first one is, which is important, of course, is the verification of the accountability of companies, where satellite technologies can support to verify accountability of companies which often have engaged in invasive behaviors, and it becomes more and more also difficult, especially if you have complex or remote logistic chains, complex outsourcing, and so on. And there, Earth observation together with machine learning and other artificial intelligence technologies can help to recover a number of data that can be of interest. The example here is rare earth mining in Myanmar, where Earth observation can really show every day, make a mapping of the mines, and it's a completely remote area where normally you cannot go in. So you have reliable data and standardized data, and you can make time series and so on. The second aspect that may be of importance for you is to track the emissions by companies. So there again, Earth observation data can tell you what is the emission, what is the composition of the gas, and what is the extent of the gas. On the left side, you see methane plumes coming from a factory. The red is the highest concentration, and then to the blue is the lower concentration. And you can really see where is the source of the methane emission, which is one of the important climate change gases, and what is the concentration. And you can monitor every day this. On the right side is an example of CO2 emission. Monitoring the impact of human activities on, for example, deforestation or loss of biodiversity or other natural heritage. On the left side, you see a time series of deforestation in an area of Brazil, and you see over the years the forest that disappears. On the right side, you have a mapping on the natural habitats, different categories of natural habitats in an agricultural area. And there again, you can monitor this over time. You can see natural habitats that disappear or the size that increases and so on. You can also use it for monitoring reforestation projects to see, well, is there again an increase of forest areas and so on. So a lot of monitoring tools with different sensors that allow you to follow, let's say, natural resources in general. It also can help to assess environmental and climatic performance and also to provide, let's say, data that are comparable between different companies, between different situations, which then can be used, for example, in a consistent way for carbon trading. A fifth example is to support the insurance industry, where these technologies are already used today, also for reinsurance. On the left side, you see flood maps that are produced from radar sensors, from satellites. And on the right side, this is an example on a large flood in the 90s in Luxembourg, in the Alsace region, where then you can also estimate with the assets that are in these flooded areas, what is the damage of the flood in that area. Also, something more important, also where especially systemic banks have an obligation to report to at the European level, is to assess climate risk. So to see what is the impact of climate change on the assets that you have. Here again, an example on the outset river, where we could model the impact of climate change. So with climate change, there will be more frequent large floods in winter, and the flood importance will increase. And so if you have assets, if you have houses that you have or your clients have in that area or close to that area, you can see with the climate change what will be the increase of water depth, the duration of the flooding, the flow velocity, the discharge, the probability that these floods occur. And so you can manage with this the assets in the flooding areas. So in conclusion, I think that spatial data can be part of your part of the solution for your data, as they can provide high-level data, very high frequency, accuracy, independent data, and so on. Low cost, and also globally consistent, so that you can also easily compare between different settings. And so it can really complement existing ESG approaches in having additional data that can help you to assess this different claims and to monitor the different companies. Of course, there are still some research that has to be done, but I think that in the near future it will be possible to map almost all the assets of global companies using remote imagery technologies at the global scale, including, of course, artificial intelligence technologies to identify and monitor the assets all over the planet. And to finish, I think this may be also an opportunity, let's say, for Luxembourg in general. When we look what has been built up over the last years in Luxembourg in the space ecosystem. So we have satellite communication, global telecommunication networks with SES. We have also Earth observation satellite, and also data from all Earth observations that are stored by the Luxembourg Space Agency. So there's a data bank where all space data are gathered and that can be used freely. We have also in Luxembourg high-tier data centers. We have high-performance computer with Meluxina, and you may have seen in the press over the last days that this will be even increased, also with adding an artificial intelligence layer. We are also a country with high connectivity, so also to transfer data from Luxembourg to other decision centers. In addition, we have a lot of competencies also around artificial intelligence. And I think that we have really an ecosystem, if we put all this together, where we can really provide also for the financial sector innovative and resilient end-to-end services and businesses to help the finance sector, and especially also, of course, sustainable finance sector to have a product made in Luxembourg, and Luxembourg may have there really a card to play at the European level to position itself in bringing the space sector closer to the finance sector. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Lucien. Have we got any questions? Yes.
Thank you very much for this. Thank you very much for the presentation. Your slide regarding Brazil actually reminded me something that I currently work on. So I'm an independent board member in a few Yes, Article 9 funds, and these are mostly in agroforestry or deforestation-related funds. And for example, when we receive reports, due diligence reports from the, let's say, investment committee, initially for the country eligibility, we see that, for example, Brazil has the technology for satellites to image the forests or the agricultural spaces, but some countries, I mean, most of them in sub-Saharan Africa, they don't have it. And from your last sentence, you said that on a European level, you try to be a service provider or you try to help to develop this ecosystem. I was wondering if you have any partnerships with some governments to this end to develop these, because before we invest in this, decide to invest in these countries, we ask them capacity building and we try to put them in partnerships for technical assistance. Do you have any involvement in this domain?
Yeah, we have, for example, a project in Southeast Asia on using Earth observation data for disaster management, especially flood management, together with the World Bank and the local, let's say, decision makers for flood management, but also the reinsurance companies. And to really have every day they can have a map on the situation, and then they can work with this map. So that's one example. And we have now also a project funded by the Luxembourgish Corporation and the World Food Programme in Nigeria and Rwanda, also to use this type of platform for developing new tools for decision making for these countries. So this can be really used worldwide.
We can reach out to you.
Mr. Hoffman, Leila Kamara, I'm doctor in sustainable investment, and I had a question related to your targets. So I understand that this data is targeting the investors, mainly insurance companies, and would you source as well the data providers for them to include this type of information in their own reporting? And you also mentioned that there are some data that are for free or low cost. Can you maybe explain how come it is low cost, please? Thank you.
This European investment, so Europe invested a lot in this Sentinel satellites, and the data are freely available. So all this data are also hosted in the Luxembourg Space Agency. They have a data center where all this are hosted, and so they can be easily accessed and for free. Of course, you need to have a minimum of, let's say, technical skills to extract information from this, but the data are freely available. And this is worldwide data. So Europe there in general has, let's say, much better information through these satellites, but better than the US, for example, which invested less in Earth observation satellites. But again, we have there, as in many, let's say, technologies or fields, that Europe is bad in bringing, let's say, these results into a market, to a business. And those that download most of the data are US companies like Google. If you have Google Maps and so on, these are data using taxpayer money from European that send up these satellites, and they make the business out of it.
Thank you, Lucien. Here, we have a question here.
Yeah, hi, Anna Fox from Vital Briefing. So very interesting presentation, but in this conference where we're talking about ESG and climate, could you maybe talk a little bit about the impact of the space industry, satellites, and you talked about data centers, all of these things which are, I mean, as I understand, space debris in itself may be an issue. There wasn't anything in your presentation about that, so would you term that an example of the evasive behaviour of environmental responsibility of the space industry? Thank you.
So it really can provide you data on different assets that you have. Also natural resources and so on, so that you can monitor projects of reforestation, for example, or if they are implemented, or not. I did not really catch the essence of your question.
I think she means the environmental damage with space debris compared to the good that space can do.
Well, there are no environmental damages on Earth, at least so far, except if some maybe debris fall on the Earth.
I think she means space debris and what that might cause in space if it crashes into another satellite.
Yeah, that's
I mean, you have the microphone.
That's
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know anything. I've just heard that it's an increasing problem.
Yeah, that is a very...
And I just get the feeling we're robbing Peter to pay Paul here.
Yeah, that is a very big challenge and problem. And also in Luxembourg, there are a number of companies now that develop tools to catch, let's say, this debris. But this is a real big problem also for the operation of the satellites in general. Yeah, that's a very big problem. And with all the new constellations that are up in space, the problem is increasing, of course. Yeah.
Other questions from the room?
And as you may know, let's say the overarching theme of the Luxembourg space strategy is sustainable space. So also Luxembourg, the ministry, the government invests a lot in let's say, tools to also make the space itself sustainable. So also to work a lot on this debris topic.
And the law, and the space law, to help it as well. Any other questions from the floor? I think you're free to go, Professor
Thank you.
Lucien. Merci.